Hello, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are around the world, and welcome to today's Postgrad Insights session. Today, focusing on what makes a great application with today's partners, UCL, one of the top 10 universities around the globe. So a huge thank you, who I'll introduce you to in a moment, to Penny and Christopher from UCL for today's session. Just before we go any further, just a reminder that today's session will be a live one. If you are watching on demand, please don't try to answer any questions via the Zoom facility. And if you do have any questions throughout the live session and you're watching now, please use the live chat facility at the top of your screen or the bottom, depending on the device you're using, or the Q&A facility as well. And also by signing up, whether that be on demand or whether that be live, you are giving us the opportunity to contact you. And if you wish to opt out, please do click so on any of the communication you may receive. So before I hand you over to UCL, just a bit of information about what we're going to cover today. So initially, we're going to go through a presentation with UCL, followed by a short Q&A session, which will give all users the opportunity to ask any questions that they might have, any concerns, any issues related to application processes, or even the circumstances around COVID at the moment related to education and the university. There will be an opportunity for you to win £500 off your tuition costs. That's eligible for all students, so please ensure you sign up. A bit of information about postgrad.com if you haven't seen our webinars before, and what is coming up in the form of our webinars and our festivals that are now happening throughout the year. So without hanging about too much, I'd like to hand you over to Penny Kofsos and Christopher Gregory. Penny is the head of UK and EU student recruitment at UCL, and Christopher Gregory is the graduate admissions manager. So at this stage, both, I'd like to hand over to you. Thanks for your time, and I'll see everyone in about half an hour's time.
Okay, thank you, Gareth. So I will just share my screen. Hopefully you can all see that. Thank you very much for the introductions. Really pleased that you're able to join us today for this session about UCL, finding a bit more about UCL and why you may want to consider studying with us. And I'm also really pleased to be joined by my colleague Chris from the graduate admissions team. And Chris is involved with the processing of all the large volume of graduate applications we receive. And he'll cover a little bit about applying to UCL. So to begin, the first thing is today really is that opportunity to find out why UCL and what makes UCL such a great university, and why do we have this really strong global reputation? And also within that, the kind of things UCL is doing to address some of the world's big questions and issues, which makes us such a great institution. So we're often described as London's global university, and we do really attract students and staff from all over the world. And we really celebrate the different perspectives and experience that they bring to the institution. And it really is an absolutely integral part of being a UCL student that you do have a global way of thinking. And with that global reputation, we are consistently ranked as one of the world's best universities in various rankings. They do vary, but the recent 2021 QS university rankings ranked us 8th in the world and 4th in the UK. So we're really proud of that strong reputation. For me, one of the things I'm most proud of at UCL is the amazing impact we have globally and how we can really importantly make a difference to people's everyday lives. So what we do at UCL is not just confined to the classrooms, the labs, studios, or lecture theatres. And throughout our history, both our students and academics have made really significant contributions to the world and how it's developed. So you may have heard on the news about the UCL Ventura breathing aid that was developed by UCL engineers, UCLH clinicians and industry partners, which helped COVID-19 patients out of intensive care. However, we've also been at the forefront of transforming treatment and diagnosis of prostate cancer. Our UCL Jury's project research has directly influenced government and judicial policies and practices. And we've also helped to reduce carbon footprint of the shipping industry. And these are just a few examples of the work and research that we do that really makes a real impact on our world today and for the future. And how we're able to do this at UCL is working towards our grand challenges, which actually brings together researchers, academics, students from across UCL, and really cultivates cross-disciplinary approaches to explore the kind of solutions to some of the world's most pressing issues. And as UCL is home to 11 faculties across a number of disciplines, we truly are able to offer that cross-disciplinary approach in a way that many other universities can't. We're known for being disruptive thinkers, and that's been the status quo at UCL from our founding in 1826. And we're very much about teaching our students how to think and not what to think. And throughout our history, we have had a very progressive approach to teaching and education and research. As I mentioned, founded in 1826, we were the first university to admit students regardless of social or race background, and the first to admit female students to university education. Also, we were the first to teach English, German, chemistry, engineering, just to give a few examples. So we've very much been disruptive from our concept. So we've talked about the past, but we are very much a university that does look towards the future and how we can make an impact and move the world forward. We're constantly investing in our facilities at UCL, and this is really important for our students to ensure that we're developing and ensuring that you have the best cutting edge facilities that you need to thrive in your studies. We've invested 1.2 billion to build an extension of our campus on the site of the Queen Elizabeth Olympic Park in East London, and also our new student centre, which provides additional study space for independent and group work for our students. And it's actually one of the greenest, most sustainable buildings in the UK at the moment. It's equipped with solar power panels and it benefits from reduced water consumption and green roof to reduce its carbon footprint. So I've mentioned Ucl East. This is a really exciting for UCL. It will be opening in September 2022. 7 minutes on the fast train from St Pancras International, so very easily accessible from our central London campus in Bloomsbury. And this will be a really innovative cultural and educational district in London. We'll also be there with other esteemed institutes such as Sadler's Wells, BBC Music, the V&A and the University of Arts, and the amazing opportunities that will give our students whilst they're studying there. UCL East will be home to a further 40 new cross and interdisciplinary undergraduate and postgraduate programs. And some of these programs will really be the first of their kind in the world, giving students a really unique learning experience. And they've been designed not only by our leading academics, but also working alongside industry partners. So introducing master's programs such as prosperity, innovation and entrepreneurship, disability design and innovation, also to citizen science, or in creative health as well, just to name a few of them. And this will really give students an opportunity to utilise their learning in their future careers. So a really exciting project for UCL as we go into the new academic year. But that investment has continued in the Bloomsbury campus as well. So, and that's across all our faculties and departments. And what you can see here is 22 Gordon Street, home to our Bartlett School of Bartlett Faculty of Built Environment, again, a newly refurbished building, but also the Francis Crick Institute. Now, this is a joint venture, and we're one of the founding partners with the Medical Research Council, Cancer Research UK, Wellcome Trust, Imperial College and King's, and Francis Crick focuses on discovery of research in biomedicine. So again, great work what we're doing with key partners across the UK. We are very proud of UCL's sustainability outlook. We also ensure that we lead by example in terms of sustainable cities. We have award-winning sustainable campus and is already powered by 100% renewable electricity. And our long-term vision is very ambitious. By 2024, all our buildings will be carbon neutral and free from the use of single-use plastics. And we also ensure that in all our teaching programs, we pass on our knowledge of sustainable practice, best practices to our students to ensure that they also become sustainability advocates themselves to benefit the greater world. So in terms of studying at UCL, there's a really wide choice. As a multidisciplinary university, we really do offer a wide range of study options. With over 500 programs, options at graduate taught level, there's not much time for me to go into much detail on all the programs. But again, we'd strongly encourage you to look at our website, where you can find detailed information about all programs of studies. So various options, Masters in Science, Masters of Arts, part-time, full-time, flexible learning as well. So please do explore the various options. So, you know, we will offer you opportunities if you have a very clear focus in terms of your graduate studies. Perhaps you really have a particular area you're interested in, or you have key career path that you've already outlined for yourself. However, we do offer a large number of programs at graduate school level that really give you the opportunity to study across disciplines, which makes it a really interesting, and again gives you something different when you're going into the job market, but also programs that are actually looking to address real global issues. So again, we'd strongly encourage you to explore those different opportunities available to you. And at UCL, it's about very much giving our students the opportunity to create their own research and allowing our students, researchers, academics to connect. And we want to give all the students the opportunity to make strong connections across disciplines and apply their learning to real world issues. So there's constant projects across the institution you can get involved in if you wish. Also change maker programs where students can actually feed into teaching practice and inclusivity of the curricula. So again, it's very much involving our students in how we're teaching you, you know, to ensure that you're getting the most of your studies with us. So at UCL, there is a very strong tradition of academic excellence, which stretches back to our founding. And this can be seen in the sheer number of Nobel Prize winners we've had to date at UCL, who've impacted on the world we live in. So ranging from Sir William Ramsay back in 1904, whilst chair of chemistry at UCL, but more recently, Sir Roger Penrose, who discovered the black hole formation and who graduated from UCL with a mathematics degree. However, we also count poets, novelists, BAFTA winners, Olympians, inventors, investors, Turner Prize winners, artists, film directors, a real wide range of people because of the scope of our programs. And you know, as students, you will become part of this amazing community if you choose to study with us. So again, of course, it's important to know about the programs of studies. And again, that's why we very much encourage people to look at our prospectus and look at the details of the programs in particular. But again, thinking about the environment that you will be living in whilst a student. And again, the experience that you will gain beyond the classroom and how that will feed into what you achieve once you graduate with us. So I mentioned Bloomsbury. So our main campus is in Bloomsbury and is very much in the heart of London. So it's also important to think about what London offers in terms of your studies as well. We are right in the heart, so as you can see, located close to King's Cross, St Pancras International and Euston, with transport links not only to the rest of the UK, but mainland Europe as well. We're very easily accessible from key airports such as City and Heathrow. We offer a wide range of accommodation options around the Bloomsbury campus and also work with private providers as well. And 70% of our halls of residence are actually within 15 minutes walk of the main campus, so really easily accessible. We mentioned UCL East. So again, as mentioned, it is very accessible from Bloomsbury campus as well. So you can just jump on from King's Cross and in 7 minutes you're at the UCL East campus. And again, there will be a number of halls of residence available on site for our students there as well. So going back to Bloomsbury though, we are in the Bloomsbury area. If you don't know much about the Bloomsbury district, it's home to over 90 academic, cultural, research, scientific and media organisations, and is often described as the knowledge quarter of London. We are surrounded by museums, libraries, academic and professional bodies, theatres, hospitals and medical institutes who we work closely with in collaboration with many of our programmes. So we work with leading organisations and iconic institutes such as the British Library, the British Museum, RIBA, Institute of Physics and the BBC, just to name a few. But again, as students, you can really make the most of those opportunities right on your doorstep. But again, we'd like you to be aware of the amazing resources we have on the UCL Bloomsbury campus as well. So for example, we have the Grant Museum of Zoology with around 68,000 zoological specimens. or the UCL Art Museum, which is home to 10,000 works of art across a range of media, including the Flaxman Gallery, which can be found in the UCL main library. We actually have 17 libraries across the Bloomsbury campus. So one thing to say about UCL, we are a large institution. However, we are very much a tight-knit community. So we are home to over 44,000 students from about 150 different countries. So again, a really global student body, giving us that global perspective. We also have 13,000 employees from around the world as well. And we're a community that works closely together and is supportive of one another as well. And you will be surrounded by curious minds who will support you in developing and actually challenging your own ideas as well in terms of what you're studying. The one thing we do try and encourage our students, and this can be a bit more challenging as a graduate student, is to get involved in other things. It can really enrich your learning experience whilst you're with us. And we have a really thriving student union where you can get involved. We have lots of volunteering opportunities. Many of our students will get involved in that. Again, it looks great on your CV and again, can help towards future career aspirations. But the thing to remember being a student at UCL in London is the whole of London is your classroom as well. So please do make the most of exploring that whilst you're with us. And also London is an amazing launch pad for your career. So it has many advantages studying in the centre of London. It's home to a number of leading institutes, society, as well as being a main hub for media, business, politics, finance and technology. So as students at UCL, you can really make the most of that, and that really helps you in terms of your future career aspirations. And again, we're there to support you in your future career aspirations. They're important not only to you, but to us as well. And we want to ensure our students do well and have every opportunity open to them. So whatever you want to do in the future, whether your career path is very clear or not, UCL Careers is on hand to support and assist you. We have a team of experienced professionals dedicated to supporting all of our current students to help you find the right path to ensure your success once you graduate. And we're connected to almost over 8,000 employees in the UK and around the world that you can tap into. But again, it's not just about helping you find career opportunities, but also giving you opportunities to enhance your skills, develop employability skills, perhaps looking at internships, a part-time work as well, if that's possible. Again, all these things that you can do alongside your studies to help you in terms of your future career. You may also be interested to know we have an amazing innovation and enterprise team at UCL who support students who are developing their own entrepreneurial skills, about advice about starting up your own business or how to apply for hatchery startups. And again, that's something you can get involved in. If you have your own business ideas, we very much support our students. And again, if you go to our website, you can see some of the great projects some of our students have worked on. So that's just to give a bit of an oversight of UCL and why you may want to consider coming to study with us. I'm now going to pass on to my colleague, Chris, who is going to talk a little bit about applying to UCL.
Okay, thanks, Penny, and hi, everyone. So I'm now going to give you some more detail about the admissions process. So the first point to note is that entry to UCL is highly competitive, but it's by no means impossible. So to put that in context, the graduate admissions team received in the region of about 90,000 applications last year. So the outcome will very much depend on the strength of the application that you submit. So with that in mind, I'll just summarise a few of the key requirements for you. So firstly, most TAL graduate programmes will require at least a second class or first class UK honours degree or the overseas equivalent. So the precise requirement for your programme will be set out on the prospectus entry. So we do advise that you read that closely and are comfortable that you meet the advertised requirements. If your previous study was completed outside the UK, the prospectus entry will link to UCL's equivalency information for your country. So you should be able to view that there. And then the prospectus will also make clear any additional requirements that there may be. So this, for example, could be things like work experience that you might need to have. In terms of references, most UCL programs will require 2 supporting references. Some will require just 1. So we will usually ask that at least one is from someone who's taught you in an academic capacity and can speak to your academic ability and potential. But if you studied more than 4 years ago, we will consider professional references instead. So the requirement for your program, so 1 or 2 references, will be set out in the prospectus entry, and there's also a small number of programs that will not require references at all. So you'll need to provide your referee's details as part of the online application process, and then once you've submitted your application, UCL will contact the referees. So therefore, it is important to speak to your referees before you apply. So basically to make sure that they're willing to support you, so just to let them know that you're going to nominate them to provide a reference on your behalf. But also, once you have submitted your application, it's good to check in with them quite quickly, just to let them know that they should be hearing from UCL shortly and be asked to provide a reference. English language, so entry to all programs will require a sufficient command of English language at UCL. So unless you're a national of a country that UCL deems to be majority English speaking, you will be required to provide evidence of your proficiency. So UCL sets out its requirement in the prospectus entry. So we will tend to ask for either a standard, good, or advanced level of English, and this will vary by program. So there are several ways to meet this requirement. So firstly, we accept a number of English language tests. So these will be things like IELTS. All the accepted tests that we will look at and the particular score requirements for each of our levels are detailed on our English language page online. In addition, we will consider 12 months of education in English or 18 months of work experience in English. Both of these forms of experience must have been undertaken in a majority English-speaking country. And if the experience was education, it must lead to an awarded qualification. Tests or experience must have been completed no earlier than 2 years prior to your proposed start date. So if anything's older than that, it wouldn't be considered recent enough to demonstrate proficiency. An important point here is that the English requirement needs to be met by the point of enrolment, but not necessarily at the time you apply. So if possible, we like to receive your test scores with your application. But if you've yet to take a test, that's fine. You can still apply to UCL. And then if your application is successful, proof of English will simply be a condition of admission, and you can provide your scores to us after you have your offer. And also, we do advise that English tests are booked as soon as possible, as test centres will typically become busier as we approach the summer. So basically, don't wait for the outcome of your application from UCL before you book. So there are a few other key points to be aware of. So concerning the application deadline, the application fee, and the applicant portal. So I'll come on to these shortly. Have the next slide, please. Okay, so in terms of application process, application should be made online, and you can access the online system and create your account from the prospectus entry. As part of this process, you'll be required to upload scanned copies of all transcripts detailing the higher education you've undertaken. So further guidance on the documentation requirements is on our website. You'll also need to provide your referee's details and also your personal statement, which I'll speak a bit more about shortly. And also, there may be additional documents required sometimes for specific programs. So these can be things like GRE or GMAT scores, or they could be writing samples or various other things too. Again, this will be set out on the website. We do ask, however, that you don't provide documents that UCL hasn't requested. So these might be things like prizes you've been awarded, this sort of thing, as those sorts of documents won't be considered as part of the admissions process. Okay, to come on to the application fee. So an application processing fee is payable at the point of submission for the majority of UCL's graduate programs. So the fee is non-refundable, and it must be paid for your application to be fully submitted. So that means that if you haven't paid the fee, your application won't be received by the admissions team and it won't be considered. We are often asked about application fee exemptions. So just to sort of explain a bit there. So these are only agreed in specific circumstances, particularly when an applicant's been affected by conflict or displacement. So if you do think this applies in your case, please contact us via our web form, and we'd be happy to look into that for you. And to come on to timeframes, so we're now open for applications for September 2022 entry. So we open for most programs in mid-October. Applications must be submitted by the deadline stated in the prospectus. So the general deadline this year is the 31st of March. That will apply to most programs. There'll be a few that have a different deadline. So again, do check the prospectus carefully. And I would stress here that it is best to apply as early as possible. So although a deadline may be stated, programs may close earlier once we have sufficient numbers of applications or if we're becoming oversubscribed. Next slide, please. Okay, so I'll now spend a few moments talking about the personal statement. So this is a really important part of your application, and it's your opportunity to get across why you wish to apply and what makes you a suitable candidate. So looking at the points below here, it really breaks down into three main areas. So firstly, what are your motivations for applying? So we'd like to know, what are your academic interests? Why are you applying to this program? And also, why do you wish to study this program at UCL in particular? Secondly, we'd like to know what you're bringing to UCL. So in terms of your educational experience, your work experience, or any other activities that you've undertaken which you feel are relevant. So this could be things like volunteering. So really it's about relating those back to the program, demonstrating why your experience makes you a suitable candidate. And finally, we'd like to know where you want your study at UCL to take you. So essentially, what are your aspirations? What are your goals? Where do you want to go from there on? It is important to keep your statement specific to these themes rather than make it too general or too wide in scope. So this is because a specific statement will allow the admissions experts to clearly identify the key information that they need to consider your application. And then a quick word on statement length. Personal statement is limited to 3,000 characters in the application form. So that's if you're actually writing it directly into the form. So that's roughly about 2 sides of A4 as a sort of a guide. If you choose to upload it as a separate document to the online application, you can do. And again, you would need to limit it to 2 sides of A4. Next slide, please. Okay, so once your application is submitted and your application fee is paid, you should receive access to the UCL Applicant Portal within 72 hours. So basically from the portal, you can manage your application. So if you don't hear from us 72 hours after you've paid and submitted, please do get in touch. So your application is considered complete by UCL once your supporting references have been uploaded by your referees and we've checked the documentation you've submitted. You can track the progress of your reference requests in the portal, and from there you can send reminders to your referees if necessary. So it's important to note that referees will have 30 days to respond to UCL once they receive the link from us. So they can provide their reference online, but the link will expire after 30 days. So it is important that you keep a check on where your references are and prompt your referees if you need to. Once your application is complete, UCL Admissions will undertake an initial review of your qualifications. So this is to make sure that you meet the minimum entry requirements for the programme. After that, an admissions expert or experts will look at your application in full, and then they will recommend a decision if they can. So it may be sometimes they need to request further information from you. So please do look out for requests from us via email, or possibly in a small number of cases, you might be invited to interview. So for programs that do interview, which are quite few in number. In terms of timeframes, decisions will usually take around 10 weeks, but this does vary quite a lot between programs. So it depends on what you've applied for, but also on the time of year you've applied as well. So different times of year might be busier. And you can track the progress of your application on the portal. So once a decision is reached on your application, it will appear in the portal and we will notify you by email, and then you can sign in and see what the decision is. So we do ask that if possible, you don't contact admissions to ask about decisions before this point, as it's unlikely there will be a decision if one's not showing. But however, if you've not received anything from us after 10 weeks, please do get in touch if you need to or if you want to. So just a final point from me in terms of what happens if your application is successful. So you'll be able to view your offer letter in the Applicant Portal, and also there will be further information as to what you need to do next to secure your place. This will include matters like applying for a student visa if you need to do that. And I'll now hand back to Penny.
Thank you, Chris. And just going on to the final slide. So firstly, to say thank you very much for taking the time to join us today and listen to the session. Like we said, we would strongly encourage you to refer to our graduate prospectus, which you can find online. Details about all programs can be found there, in particular modules you can take in terms of the program, but also the entry requirements that Chris spoke about as well. And again, currently we are running a number of graduate open events where you can sign up for virtual sessions with our academics and students on the program, where you can ask specific questions about any programs that you may be interested in. So again, please do refer to our website. Again, feel free to contact us if you have any further questions. You can email us at study@ucl.ac.uk, and we'll be more than happy to respond to any of your questions. But on that note, thank you very much. I'm now going to hand back to Gareth.
Thank you. Penny, Chris, brilliant. Thank you very much. So for the people that haven't watched this before, for the viewers, we're now going to engage in a Q&A session. Now, not all of the questions that have been asked so far will get answered. There are some quite complex questions that have come through that we've noticed. So for those of you that don't get your questions answered, please don't worry. We will reach out to you after the session, and we will make sure that we answer your question as best as possible. But the initial questions to begin with, and this, I'll try and do it in an order that kind of flows quite nicely. But if we carry on from the application and selection process, Chris, that you were talking about, tell me if a student's got 3 choices in front of them. They've got yourselves, they've got another top 50 university in the UK and top 100. What makes you stand out to other universities? What makes you specifically a top 10 university that you can go, that's why you should come to us, that's why we are different?
Gareth, could I answer that, Chris, if that's okay? Yeah. So UCL, we are very much a research-led university. With our strong global reputation, we are in a real strong position where we can attract some of the leading academics in their field, who are right in the heart of what's happening in that research area. And in turn, these are the people who will be teaching you. So these are the people who are making real impact. And again, because of UCL's reputation, we're very fortunate that we can work with world-leading partners as well. So we have partnerships with universities all over the world. In the presentation, I mentioned some of the bodies that we work with as well. So again, having that kind of strong reputation allows us those opportunities to work very closely with industry partners to develop our programs and deliver our programs as well. So I think that's what really makes UCL stand out. But also, our London location, again, that gives us great opportunities to work with various bodies, which you wouldn't necessarily get in other parts of the UK or the world, in my opinion. I don't know, Chris, would you have anything further to add to that?
No, I think that really sort of sums it all up. Yeah.
I think maybe I should elaborate a little bit further on that, because ourselves, we being the #1 provider in the globe really for PG courses, we deal with plenty of people that don't really understand what it's like to live in the UK in certain areas. The fact that you are in London, no matter where you are in the globe, you've got an airport 20-30 minutes away in the form of Heathrow, Gatwick, Stansted or Luton. You're never far away from a train. So even if you're from the UK and you're from one part of the country, or even if you're from Wales or Scotland, it's very accessible. So I think sometimes students can look at that and go, oh, we're in London, it's scary, we're far away from home. But you're never that far away from home, really. You're never far away from a flight, a train station, or even a coach journey from anywhere. So
yeah, no, you're totally right, Gareth. But also, London is a very multicultural city. There's whole community. So wherever you come from in the world, you know, yes, it's easily accessible to go home and so forth, but there's whole communities within London which you can connect with, not only within UCL, but London as a whole as well. So it very much becomes home from home for many students as well.
Yeah, and of course, that's what makes London so special as well.
Yeah.
You know, that's why a lot of people come, which is great. So my next question is from Vanessa. Vanessa, I know you've asked another question about the English language proficiency tests as well, which I think have been answered already by Chris. But Vanessa asks about the accommodation within UCL and around. So what support have you got? As we know, living costs in major cities can be quite expensive. But what help do you offer, and who do you work with?
So UCL does have a number of halls of residence that are open to our students. Now, for graduate students, if you're coming from the outside the UK, you can apply and be guaranteed for accommodation. But for UK students, that guarantee is not in place. There's nothing stopping you applying, but we cannot guarantee that we can offer you halls of residence. As you can imagine, with over 44,000 students, that, you know, housing them all is a bit of a challenge. However, we do work with a number of private providers as well to support students in finding suitable accommodation near UCL. So Unite is one of them as well that we work with. And again, a lot more affordable than perhaps if you were to go privately. Now, in terms of the halls that we have, it really ranges in terms of price and very comparable to other halls of residence you would find elsewhere in the UK. But very much depends on what you're looking for. You know, if you want en-suite facilities, if you want catered, that will be more expensive. But again, if you're happy sharing facilities with other students, that will keep the cost down. Like I said, the majority is within walking distance, and a lot of our providers we work with have accommodation very close to the Bloomsbury campus. And for those who perhaps in the future will be looking at programs offered by UCL East, there will be halls of residence there as well. So we have an accommodation office, and there's very good advice and support on our website if you want to go for look for further information or have further questions.
Excellent. And we did get a question come in from Rahul Vara as well, with regards to the COVID situation at the moment. I think, Rahul, you asked this beforehand and you've asked it again now, which is fine. It is an important question. Obviously, COVID playing such a relevant part in our lives for everyone, really, no matter who you are, where you're from. In the UK, it is dying down a little bit. You know, restrictions have been eased as of today, actually. But Penny, Chris, whoever might be best to answer this, what are the university doing to help students that either catch COVID, they have to isolate, or even concerned or worried about coming to the UK because of that very reason? How are you supporting and helping students?
So again, as with many universities, it was quite a challenging time for us, and we had to adapt very, very quickly. So a lot of our learning did go online for students again, because of restrictions of travels, concern about traveling. And for some students that has remained, where it has been particularly challenging for them to join us, we've continued to offer that support of online learning. In terms of students on campus who perhaps caught COVID and were in halls of residence, again, we ensured that they were supported. There were staff on hand, support packages as well in those initial stages. That seems to have greatly improved now, so not so much of an issue. But we are hopeful that for the next cycle, for the next academic year, we should be back to some level of normal. You know, things are returning slowly, and at UCL what we are doing is a lot of our large scale lectures are offered online, and that's actually not just because of what's happened with COVID, but actually speaking to our students and academics who feel actually large scale lectures offered virtually works quite well, but then ensuring students have that contact in tutorial groups, small group teaching, lab work, that has continued in person. But again, regular testing is encouraged amongst our students and staff. You know, mask wearing is still something we encourage within campus, inside buildings. So again, we follow government guidance and, you know, adapt and change when needed, basically. But hopefully September, for many of you, if you're joining us then, things will be back to more pre-pandemic.
Yeah, well, I think that's a really important point as well, Penny. I think you mentioned it there at the end. You're guided by the government. You know, as much as you guys would love to have everyone on campus, your main priority is making sure everyone's safe and well, and that you're doing everything right for not just the university, but for the student as well. So you're not alone. Every university is the same in the UK, like you mentioned. So fingers crossed, hopefully 2022-23 will certainly become a little bit more what we would call normal, where students can go back to face-to-face. Okay, then. So final question that I would like to ask then, again, it's a question that comes in quite often, but it more specifically within funding is Chevening Marshall scholarships. We do have a partnership with them, but do you guys offer Chevening scholarships? And I know from speaking to you guys, you know, you do offer a variety of scholarships at the moment, but obviously application spaces are very full at the moment as well. So can you talk to us about the scholarship providers you work with? Are Chevening one of them? That was asked. I don't know who it was an anonymous attendee, but can you talk to me through that and the process and the differences it makes to a student when they apply that way?
Okay, so yeah, Chevening and Marshall scholarships, yes, we work with them. I think we've had, last year we had one of the largest number of Chevening scholarships join us at UCL. So we've had a number of students on the Chevening scholarship. We work with other bodies as well. So depending on what country you're from, it is worth looking. And we have a scholarship finder on our website where you can find, you know, you can search by country, you can search by department, and it will help you identify a particular scholarship that you would be eligible to apply for. So we work with Bolishak, Conosit, South America. So that there are a variety of different scholarships providers that we work with, basically. There are also scholarships at UCL, just specifically within UCL. They tend to be awarded on needs based. So when a student, so if you've been made an offer to UCL, you've applied to us, for us, you have met the academic standards of UCL. So then we look at a needs base. So again, there's a variety of questions that would be asked. And again, it is a separate application that you have to make. So you identify which scholarships you're eligible for. And again, in the portal, you'd be able to apply for those scholarships. I should stress these scholarships are very, very competitive. At master's level, the majority are not full scholarships. So they would not be covering your full tuition fees and costs of living. So we'd strongly encourage you to explore various options in terms of funding your studies, because it would be unlikely that you would get a scholarship that would cover everything. We are constantly looking to increase our provision of scholarships, so do keep an eye on that. But yes, and in terms of research, again, because UCL, it has such a strong research reputation, we have a lot, there can be significant research funding in particular areas that you can apply for directly for studentships. So again, that's definitely worth exploring on our website, and it can really depend on the area of study that you're looking to explore. But all that information can be easily found on our website.
Excellent. I know I said one more question and that was it, but there is one more I think is really important. It's come through on social media actually. So I feel obliged to ask it. Is we talked a lot about face-to-face learning and even a bit of blended learning throughout the session. Talk to me about those that want to do online learning, for distance learning, part-time. You know, what opportunities have you got as an entire university towards everyone really, rather than just those that come over? I know you've touched upon it already, Chris, in your presentation, but can you just elaborate a little bit further that, you know, you do accept students of all varieties, of all types, from any background, and so on from there? I don't know who's best to answer that one.
Chris, do you want to touch upon the different modes of learning?
Yes. So, I mean, many programs at UCL are set up to allow for part-time study, or also study that's on what we call modular flexible. So that will tend to be over a period of 2 to 5 years, depending on the sort of pace that the particular student wants to take the individual modules at. So, yeah, many programs are geared up for people who have other commitments, who may not necessarily want to be full-time students. At the same time, there will be quite a number of programs which won't be delivered fully face-to-face. So there'll be some that are fully online as distance learning, and there will be some that are what we call mixed mode. So there'll be a blend of face-to-face attendance and online content. Probably, Penny, you might be best to speak to the other bit of that.
Yeah, so again, all that info, any program, those different learning modes you'd find on the prospectus page. So if it's possible to study part-time or flexible modular, it would state it on the prospectus page. So you'd clearly be able to see where those opportunities are. It's not, it's not the same across all programs at UCL. It can vary depending on the nature of the program, whether it is possible to offer it in those different modes. So definitely worth looking there. The one thing, talking about accepting students from a variety of backgrounds and so forth. So this is something that has been at the core of UCL from its founding, opening up education to all. Prior to UCL, if you wanted to go to university, it was very restrictive. You had to firstly be a man, member of the Church of England, and a member of the upper class. So UCL was that university who really pushed those boundaries about opening education to all. And that is an important, it's fundamental to UCL and remains to this day. So we are looking at students who meet the academic requirements. We are not looking at where you're from, your background, what country you're from. Are you the right fit for UCL? Do we feel that you will contribute to that community? I've mentioned we're a really global university, with over 150 countries represented. So we accept students from all parts of the world, basically, which makes it a great place to study and work in. We also have widening participation objectives, where we're keen to extend education to those who come from backgrounds who would not normally go into education. For example, the Bartlett School of Architecture and Planning has been offering a number of scholarships, promised scholarships for students from those kind of backgrounds to allow them that opportunity to get into education. So it's something that was part of UCL in our founding and continues to be an important aspect of who we are, making that education accessible to all.
Lovely. And I think that's a lovely way to finish off. Very pleased I asked that question. But yeah, that is a very important point. And just before we say bye-bye to Penny and Chris, in a world that can be quite, nasty and horrible at times, they are open to accepting all students, all different backgrounds, no matter who you are. And like Penny said, doesn't matter who you are, they look at your education and your education only, not who you are, where you're from, what you do, and so on from there. So Penny, Chris, thank you very much. At this stage, we'd like to say thank you and goodbye to you guys. Just a reminder that if anyone is watching and wants to see any of this presentation again that UCL have presented on, head back onto postgrad.com, head over to UCL, who will also be hosting this undoubtedly on their social medias as well. Alternatively, we will be reaching out to you, whether it's Penny or Chris, or whether it's someone else at UCL. Please do take the time to ask any questions you might have. Penny, Chris, thank you very much.